Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our first Noontime Knowledge of the new year. Happy New Year. My name is Rich Bundy. I'm the Vice President for Development and Alumni Relations here at Penn State, and I get to be, I get the privilege of being your host for today's conversation. I understand that we have one of the largest, if not the largest, groups of participants ever for a Noontime Knowledge session, and people are still dropping in. So thank you for spending some part of your day with us and for coming to listen and learn a bit more about the Student Success Center and their program, the Complete Penn State Initiative. In a minute, I'm going to introduce you to our guests, and after they've shared a few remarks, we'll have some time for a Q&A with our presenters. What I'd like to encourage you to do is if you have a question, you can enter it in the chat box, or you can also raise your hand using the raise hand feature, and we'll try to connect you through that. I also want to just point out for the record that we're recording this session. So great, let me give you a little bit of background to set the stage for our program today. As proud Penn Staters like I am, you know that the core of a great university is to ensure that a Penn State degree remains accessible and affordable. The Student Success Center is a critical part of our ability to make that vision for Penn State a reality. The center offers resources related to financial aid, career and mental health services, student veteran support, and more to connect undergraduates with the resources they need to finish their degrees. One of the specific Student Success Center programs that we're going to highlight today is called Complete Penn State, which is an initiative that helps students who are within 2 semesters of graduating, but for whatever reason may be at risk for not finishing their degree. So of course, there's a lot to say about these efforts, but you don't want to hear from me about that. I want to introduce you to our guests who are much better equipped to talk to you about the Student Success Center and Complete Penn State. So let me go through all of them. First off, Sophie Polillo graduated from Penn State in 2022 with a Bachelor of Science degree in psychology. She started her role as the Assistant Director of Student Philanthropy in Penn State's Office of Annual Giving in May of 2022, where she serves as the advisor for the Student Philanthropy Network. Nick Cedeno is a 4th-year student studying labor and human resources, Chinese and Asian studies. Throughout his time on campus, he has served in various volunteer roles and is currently the president of the Student Philanthropy Network. Nick was also, full disclosure, my intern in the DDAR summer internship program last year. As we were just discussing, Nick is gearing up to dance in Thon in 2 weeks. Upon graduating this spring, Nick will be working with the investment firm PIMCO in their New York City office. Next up, Denise Poole is the Director of Student Success Initiatives. She's led the Student Success Center within undergraduate education since it opened in 2019. And last but not least, Chelsea Walls, Student Success Advocate, joined the Student Success Center in March of 2022. Previously, some of you will remember, Chelsea served as the Assistant Director of Student and Young Alumni Programs with the Penn State Alumni Association. So with that, let me turn it over to Sophia to get us started. Sophia is on the corner in my screen, and take it away.
Thank you, Rich. Hi, everyone. My name is Sophia Polillo, and I'm the Assistant Director of Student Philanthropy in the Office of Annual Giving. I am a Penn State graduate, the class of 2022, and I'm super grateful that I was able to begin my career at the university that's had such a huge impact on my life. Part of my job does include being the advisor to the most amazing group of students in the Student Philanthropy Network. So if you're not aware, Student Philanthropy Network is a student organization that aims to educate and engage the Penn State student body in the university's philanthropic culture and goals. We have a lot of different projects and initiatives that we work on year round. This semester, we're kicking back up our monthly newsletters. Those are an opportunity for any student organization to share upcoming events or news, and they just use our platform to get that out. We also planned the student involvement side of Giving Tuesday this year. We hosted an in-person event at the Hub, and we had 14 other student organizations join us day of. Being housed under the Office of Annual Giving supplies us with additional opportunities. For example, for One Big Week this year, we were able to bring in a whole new group of student donors and get the student body interested in the topic. We collaborated with UPUA and the Lions Pantry, and we were all champions of One Big Week this year. And then our biggest and our most well-known project is the class gift. This year, we were able to work with student leaders from all around the university to help with the selection process. And then the class of 2023 ultimately chose Support for Complete Penn State as their class gift. We fundraise year round for class gift, and we're looking forward to our upcoming fundraisers this semester. So if you're interested in attending, we post all of them on our social media. So be sure to check us out there. Getting to work so closely with SPN's executive board and speak with our students at events, I've really been able to see the impact and importance of Student Philanthropy Network. On one end, I've watched my executive board grow into strong, confident leaders and seize in opportunities that are going to continue to help them in their professional life. But I've also seen how the money we fundraise changes these students' lives. I'm so thrilled about this year's class gift because it's directly helping students in their last year at Penn State to make sure they see graduation day. And I'm just so grateful to have the position that I do. I've had the most amazing experience when I was a student, and now it's so rewarding to ensure that students have the same experience and opportunities that I was fortunate enough to have. So with that being said, I'm super excited to introduce the Student Philanthropy Network's president, Nick Cedeno.
Yeah, thanks, Sophie, for that amazing introduction. Hi, everyone. My name's Nick Cedeno, just to reintroduce myself briefly. And I'm a fourth year studying human resources, Chinese and Asian studies. What really brought me to Penn State. So I'm originally from New York, and a lot of the opportunity that this university is able to offer its students is really what drew me in, especially in comparison to other universities. But on top of that, a lot of the scholarship assistance that I was able to receive through the generosity of so many donors and the work that the development staff does, and just to be able to make Penn State more accessible to more students is really what was able to bring me to this university, especially as an out-of-state student. Additionally, like being here on campus, I've been involved with a multitude of organizations, but most notably, and the organization that I've enjoyed being involved in the most so far is by being president of the Student Philanthropy Network, where our kind of like bread and butter in SPN is the class gift. And this year we, as you all know, we're fortunate enough to have Complete Penn State selected as our class gift this year. And getting involved in this organization, I wasn't really too sure what to expect, but being a DDAR intern, that really helped me kind of have a strong base on how to work with donors and effectively fundraise for different initiatives here on campus. So that definitely helped me out a lot. And, for achieving, the selection of Complete Penn State, it was definitely a very long process. Here at Penn State, the way SPN kind of does it is we have a nomination process, and students would nominate a bunch of different ideas for the class gift. We had a multitude of things, from bringing back a Chick-fil-A here on campus to a water fountain outside of Old Main, and even Complete Penn State and different things like that. And in order to kind of narrow down this big list of nominations, we did select student leaders from all around campus, and these individuals included presidents and executive board members from organizations like the Pan-Hellenic Council, the Interfraternity Council, Lion Ambassadors, the Student Program Association, UPUA, and Thon. Quick shout out, Sydney, it's nice to see you on the call, our representative from UPUA. But yeah, after that, we were able to all kind of have a meeting and narrow down our top three that we were to send out to the student body, and they would vote on that. And fortunately enough, Complete Penn State was selected. I did hear that Complete Penn State was on the ballot for the past 3 years. So it was nice to finally see it come to fruition and have it be the class gift, because it is an unbelievable program. The Student Success Center does so much for students. And, with the class gift, it's not just about the fundraising. We have been fortunate enough to raise a lot this year, and officially have our class gift endowed already, which is awesome. But our work definitely doesn't just stop there. We're hoping to fundraise and gain as much as we can for students and for that scholarship assistance, but also for marketing these like different things that help aid students. So in the past few years, our class gifts have been more focused towards student equity and helping students specifically, rather than physical class gifts in the past. So many times, I'm sure if you're walking around on campus, you'll see like a light post or a bench. It would say like donated by this class specifically, but in the past few years, the funding for the class gift has gone more towards student programming, which has been awesome. And for the class gift specifically, it's not just about the money, but also marketing this so that students understand that these resources are available. And Complete Penn State, it's a resource that not too many people know this outside of Rich, but it's a program that's made a big impact in my life. Coming into my last semester here at Penn State, my mother, she's going through like different treatments for because she's going through cancer right now, and I wasn't too sure if I'd be able to pay for my last semester here at Penn State. And the Complete Penn State program was able to endow me with a scholarship to help me, finish my last semester here at Penn State. And I wouldn't be dancing in Thon in a few weeks. I wouldn't be walking across the stage in May, or even here talking in front of you all right now without Complete Penn State. So just that marketing, like I didn't know it was something available to me and to other students before it was named the class gift. So it's definitely been made a huge impact in my life and made a huge impact in a lot of other Penn Staters' lives. And for all of you as donors and different volunteers here at Penn State, if you're looking to make a donation soon, this is definitely an awesome program, and you definitely could that. But even just simply spreading the word to get the word out that they're about Complete Penn State and all it has to offer to students and how alumni can really make a difference. That's really something that is great, and we would definitely appreciate and strongly recommend. But yeah.
Great. Sophia and Nick, thanks for your comments. I really appreciate it. We're going to pivot just a little bit now, and I'll reintroduce Denise and Chelsea to share a little bit of their thoughts about the Student Success Center. And I think, Denise, you're going to go first.
Yes, I am. Thank you, Rich, and thank you, Nick and Sophia. Nick, thank you for sharing that story. I'm glad that we were able to support you and that we're able to support so many students through Complete Penn State. It's a wonderful program, and we are absolutely thrilled that the Student Philanthropy Network has selected Complete Penn State for the class gift of 2023. So I'm going to share my screen. We are going to talk a little bit about Complete Penn State. I'll introduce you and give you a little bit about my history, the history of the Student Success Center, a brief overview of the work that we're doing. I'm here and joined by my colleague, Chelsea Walls, who will also be presenting this afternoon. She'll introduce herself when she takes over in our presentation. So just give me a moment and I will share my screen. So thank you to all of you for taking the time this afternoon to join us for this presentation. We are absolutely thrilled by the interest and excitement, enthusiasm about Complete Penn State, but it's also an opportunity to learn a little bit about the Student Success Center, which is the office that oversees Complete Penn State. So again, my name is Denise Poole. I'm the Director of Student Success Initiatives overseeing the Student Success Center. I joined Penn State in July of 2019, which is when we officially opened the doors to the Student Success Center. And prior to that, I spent about 15 years in higher education, working predominantly with student athlete populations, but very invested in student success efforts, and was able to help launch student success efforts at my previous institution and kind of see how the impact of focus on equity, as Nick had mentioned, and holistic support and focusing efforts on closing achievement gaps can make such an impact at an institution. So we have a small staff. We opened our doors, and I'll go through a little bit of our history in just a moment, more thoroughly in a future slide, but we're new. We are the newest office within the undergrad education unit. We have 2 full-time staff members, Chelsea and I, who lead the Student Success Center fully. We have a joint administrative staff position that we just got this past fall semester when Kaylee Taylor joined us. And then we have a graduate assistant position helping run the office. We're going to give a brief overview today. There's going to be a Q&A after, so we're more than happy to answer any questions you have about Complete Penn State or anything we cover in our presentation on the Student Success Center. But I do think it's important to give you a very brief history, just some of the milestones we've been able to hit during our time as an office at University Park. discuss our mission and our vision for the future. We'll talk a little bit about our areas of focus, so where we really kind of put our efforts as a small team to try to make as big of an impact as we possibly can at the university. And we'll talk specifically about the current programs and events that we are sponsoring and hosting, and those that we hope to be able to greater impact in the future. And then we'll talk a little bit about the support we've received from donors so far, which is helping us operate, and the alumni support we've received to help market and amplify the great programs and services that we're running. And we will wrap up with just some key targeted opportunities that you all can help us with as we move forward from today. So again, we opened in July of 2019. We were the brainchild, if you will, of a committee called the Enhanced Educational Pathways Committee, which was a university-wide committee that was focused on trying to bolster student success efforts at the university. We were originally in Old Main. I have a little arrow there just for fun. That was my window for the first 6 months of my career here at Penn State. And not the most inviting building, Old Main. So it was not supposed to be a long-term physical location for us, and it isn't any longer, but that's where we started. I took over the Complete Penn State program in August of 2019. Complete Penn State at that time was in its 3rd year of existence at the university. It had already started to build momentum and interest across the university from students and their supports through the referral process. So it was an exciting program and really building that momentum when I took it over. We were able to expand and hire one other full-time role as an office in May of 2020, and we all know what was happening in spring of 2020. So it was definitely a time of heightened need. There was a lot of really just general anxiety about the future, economic future for many of our families and their ability to continue to afford Penn State. So we had a huge spike in interest, over a 350% increase in applications and referrals from the year before I started to that first year that I was overseeing the program. We then expanded once we kind of I got a little bit more support, and we started to build out a more well-structured process for handling the influx of interest in Complete Penn State. We started to expand and venture into additional supports and programs for our first generation student population. We were able to hire some student employees. And then when we returned back to on-campus functioning in fall of 2021, we were able to, fall of 2021, we were able to relocate to 325 Buki. For those of you that are very familiar with University Park, Buki is a much more centralized and student-friendly building. So that was definitely a step forward for the Student Success Center. We then hosted our first in-person first generation student celebration in fall of 2021. And we were excited by the end of last year to have been selected by a national association to receive the distinction of a first generation forward institution, which allows us access and to first generation student supports, access to a network of institutions across the country who are committed to propelling the first gen experience at their institutions. And then just this fall, we took over as official advisors of First Gen Advocates, which is the official student organization that's supporting and championing first generation students here at University Park, and making some headway into also trying to increase that support for first generation students across all of our undergrad degree granting campuses. Our mission at the Student Success Center is really to align our initiatives with the university's strategic goals as they support student support in general, as they help to increase retention across the university and bolster our graduation and completion rates. Our mission has been really, since we opened our doors, to forge the critical partnerships necessary across the university to be true champions of our students as they progress towards their individual goals, to help bolster support and create a stronger network across the university and advocate for their academic pursuits. We're looking for opportunities always to help promote meaningful campus connection for students and help them with their own personal development journeys. And overall, the work that we're doing, both here at the center and through our partnerships with a variety of student support offices, is continuing to contribute to a growing culture of care across the university. All this to say, as we look into the future, we're really focused on that key issue of enhancing equity in the academic experience, and particularly supporting those students who are coming from low-income backgrounds, who identify as first generation, and all students really, so that they can make the most of their career and their time at Penn State. So at this point, I'm going to introduce my colleague, Chelsea Walls, who's also here, and she's going to talk us through a little bit of just an overview of our areas of focus. So Chelsea.
Thanks, Denise. Hi, everyone. I'm Chelsea Walls. As Rich mentioned at the top of our time together, I joined the Student Success Center last March, so coming up on a year, but I've been with the university for almost 10. I spent the majority of that with the Penn State Alumni Association. So it's nice to see some familiar faces and names from my time in DDAR. So I'm going to take you through fairly quickly our areas of focus. I know we have limited time. You can see these three kind of buckets here of the areas that we are really focusing on as an office. I'm going to start with information and advocacy. As Denise had started to mention or talk about, a big part of our vision and mission is building coalition, educating our partners, identifying support gaps and streamlining resources. All of these things that we're doing in this space of enhancing equity in the academic experience, while we're housed here at University Park, is really Commonwealth-wide. We have some really incredible partners who are working with at, I believe, almost every campus location, including World Campus. We're advocating for needs and change for students, again, primarily for those low-income, first-generation, a lot of students of color, historically marginalized students, breaking down administrative silos to help ensure that these students are getting through to graduation and achieving their goals along the way. Part of the work that we're doing as an office is also socializing a definition of student success. So it's very buzzy right now. And what does that actually mean, right? And we've also created a student success framework. You can see that graphic here. It looks very overwhelming, especially when it's a little bit small on the screen. But we've included a URL here, and we can also drop it in the chat, that we would encourage you to visit on our website to really dig into this definition and framework of student success a little bit more. Our next area of focus is around first generation student success. So when we're saying first generation, just so we're all on the same page, Penn State's definition of a first generation student is a student whose parents or legal guardians did not complete a baccalaureate degree. That entails about 1 in 4 Penn State students across the entire Commonwealth. Some of our campuses have nearly 50% of their student population is first generation. It's closer to 1 in 5 at University Park, but again, about 25% in total across the whole university. When Denise started with the Student Success Center, she identified this as a population that, while there was some great work happening in pockets across the university, there wasn't a collective, cohesive effort. And so that's something that our office has been helping to lead. We have 2 main events in conjunction with these efforts. One in the fall, which is the First Generation College Celebration Day. It's a national day on November 8th. This was our 3rd year celebrating. You can see here it was university-wide. We had an incredible reach in celebrating our first gen community. And then in the spring, we host the First Generation Student Support Summit. It is a 1-day conference. This will be our 2nd year. You can see it's coming up on March 29th. You are all invited. It's open to all faculty, staff, students, and alumni. Really is an opportunity to share best practices and continue to enhance the support community for first-gen students. This year, we're focusing on the theme of mentorship. And Denise mentioned some of these things already, but we're working with the First Gen Advocate Student Organization here at University Park. They're also fairly new, but really passionate and excited about continuing to build community for these first gen students. A lot of students don't even recognize that that's a part of their identity until they're in college. And then for many of them, it clicks of, oh, that's why I wasn't understanding this, or, oh, this really explains this, this disconnect I was feeling, et cetera, et cetera. And then our First Gen Forward designation that she mentioned, we achieved that through the National Center for First Generation Student Success, which is a part of NASPA, which is the Professional Organization for Student Affairs. We're in a cohort of around 53, 54 institutions this year, and we're only the 6th Big Ten institution to receive this designation. That involves some professional development and community building for us as participants, but also it's a great way to kind of brag on our university that we're prioritizing the student population. Since our designation, our office has also created a First Gen Advisory Council that's made up of students, faculty, staff, and administrators. We currently have representation from 10 of our campuses. We meet with them regularly to, again, share best practices, identify support gaps, analyze data for our First Gen students. And that's been a really awesome opportunity to, again, build that coalition and continue to enhance the supports for the student population. Okay, lastly, why we're here talking about degree completion support. So this is Complete Penn State, which you've heard a little bit about. I don't want to be too duplicative, but you can see here Complete Penn State involves kind of these 3 buckets of support. Really, the goal is to help undergraduate students on their pathway to degree completion. We work with students through re-enrollment support, so that students who've been away from the university for more than 2 semesters and are coming back to finish their degree. Primarily what a lot of students or others associate with Complete Penn State is the Open Doors Completion Scholarship. This is a micro scholarship up to $3,000 to help students who are this close to graduating, but just need that extra financial support to help get them through, as Nick kindly shared his story with us about. But then we also offer non-financial completion support. So there are a lot of students who, again, are facing that finish line and just need to be connected with some other resources. They're just not sure where to go. Maybe the rest of their collegiate experience has been smooth sailing, and then now right at the end, they're really encountering some difficulties. And so we're here to just help get them through to that finish line. A bit more about the scholarship itself. In its history, so as Denise mentioned, I believe we're in the 6th year of Complete Penn State. Nearly 3,000 students have been awarded, totaling more than $8 million in scholarships. We work with 34 awarding offices, scholarship offices across the university. So again, this is not University Park specific, to coordinate the awarding of those scholarships. And since our application for this academic year has opened, we've already received more than 1,100 applications and referrals. There's incredible need from our graduating students to help get them through to graduation. Seeing a lot of fallout from the pandemic still, and just, again, some high need. You can see here on the left, just a couple graphics. These are some of our awarding outcomes from last year's cohort of scholarship recipients. That bottom right image, more than half of the recipients are Pell eligible, which means they're incredibly high need. So we're definitely hitting that target audience of low income. Again, you see some good numbers of international students. We're one of the few scholarships that international students can qualify for, adult learners, first generation students, et cetera. I would encourage you to check out our full report from our previous fiscal year awarding outcomes. You can scan that QR code, or the link is there. Again, we can share all these links with you as well. But that will give you a more in-depth look into the program and its impact from the previous year. And Denise, I'm going to turn it back to you.
Thank you, Chelsea. And a big shout out to Chelsea as well for pulling together the graphics on that report. I think she did a phenomenal job, and it's going to help us further communicate the impact we're making at Complete Penn State. And hopefully you enjoy it as well. So our current support, we have been able to champion, get champions for our efforts. We've received private gifts over the course of our existence since 2019, totaling up to about $60,000 over that time. Most of that has gone towards additional student scholarships. I think I'll note here that one of the nuances of Complete Penn State is that because we're working with individual scholarship offices, Each of those individual campuses and colleges that we're working with have varying degrees of scholarship dollars that they can award. And so when funds are exhausted in those individual areas, we then go to central funding. So typically by closer to the end of the year, we start to exhaust that central pool, which is not an overwhelmingly large amount of money considering the need across the university. So we've been able to use some of the gifts we've received for that purpose. Additionally, those gifts sometimes go to students who are not quite eligible for Complete Penn State. So the requirements on Complete Penn State are that you are in your final 2 semesters, but occasionally we get some juniors who are looking ahead, or maybe they've exhausted their resources, some of the resources they thought would be available in their 6th or 7th 5th or 6th semester. And so some of the gifts that we have that we've received have been able to help support those individuals. We've raised about $7,000 in our Giving Tuesday campaigns. We've put a lot of effort and energy into marking those events across the community. So that has been helpful to us in supporting our operational needs and helping bolster some of the great events that are really helping us build coalition and community across the university. We receive about $1,000 to $2,000 annually from a Rob Pangborn. Rob Pangborn is former dean and vice president of undergrad education. An endowed fund that was raised in Rob's honor for his commitment and service to the university, and has specifically gone to the Student Success Center. And we've been working closely with Sue Harris, who is also with us this afternoon, our Director of Development for University Programs and Parent Philanthropy, to help us continue to raise awareness and opportunities for the Student Success Center. But there are still ample opportunities for support. So again, as a very new office that started just a few months before COVID, I think that we haven't quite recovered as an institution to be able to direct the resources that we need to fully operate at the level that we need to be right now. To be honest, we're doing a lot with what we have, but we could be doing so much more. So just generally, gifts to the Student Success Center can help fund the development and enhancement of current and future programs. They can help improve our operations, potentially endow future positions. As we continue to grow, we're going to need more support to help support the students and really take that holistic lens to helping them overcome the obstacles they are facing. Funds can also help enhance our physical space. We are currently sharing an office suite with a volunteer income tax assistance program. Student Affairs has a few spaces here that they've opened for prayer and meditation. We have kind of a hodgepodge in this shared suite. It's a little confusing at times for students. We're doing the best with what we have, and we've enhanced our signage and our marketing so students can find us, but we're kind of tucked back this hallway. So we're looking in the future, hopefully, to find more visibility and accessible space for our students. In the area of first generation student success, continuing contributions can help us bolster scholarships. Volunteer opportunities can help with mentorship, speaking engagements, and just by telling your story. For many of you who identify as a first generation student yourself, we often remind our students that that identity doesn't end just in college. It does continue with you in your career. And so what does that mean for your continued career advancement in the future? And it's helpful to get students to start thinking about this now, both the benefits and the gifts of being first generation. First generation students are trailblazers. We remind them that they are highly resilient, that they come to campus with a set of skills and life experiences that sometimes our next gen, continuing gen students do not have. So telling your story as an alumni, I think is really impactful for our current students. And then in the area of retention and degree completion support, we need to continue to fund early intervention. For many of the students we're working through with Complete Penn State, these are not unforeseen hardships. These are hardships that students have encountered and have had to navigate their entire careers. And so for us, we're trying to use data to identify students early who may be having to extend their career for various reasons, who may be losing access to certain funding that we can see by pulling various reports, to try and create a safety net and infrastructure to offer them the scholarship support that they need in advance, so they don't have to spend ample time searching and wondering and worrying about where their educational funding is going to come from. So that near complete Penn State eligible population is important. It's also important to be educating our students as they arrive to the institution so that they can be thinking holistically about their funding, how they are funding their educational expenses throughout the duration of their academic career. And then an exciting development that we are working on in collaboration with our partners in Penn State Learning and Student Disability Resources and our colleagues in World Campus. We are piloting an academic life coaching program right now, which has the hopes of being a university-wide effort to help supply individual students with more equitable support and coaching so that they can help navigate challenges, build those personal skills that are necessary to overcome what they're going to be faced with, the challenges they're faced with as a student, but then also building those skills that they can take with them to transition into their career and life. So we're really excited about that program, but it is going to take ample resources to continue to advance that program so it can truly be a university-wide collaborative effort. So there's many ways to connect with us and get involved, and Chelsea's gonna explain sort of some of our social opportunities and wrap us up this afternoon.
Yes, thank you for letting us maybe go a little bit over our time. If you can't tell, Denise and I are very passionate about all of the work that we're doing, and we could talk to you about it all day. But you can stay in the loop with what we're doing on Instagram and Twitter at PSU_success. We are also on LinkedIn. And our website, lastly, you can see the URL there. I shared a couple links in the chat of some of the things that we've shared and talked about in our presentation, but on our social media, sharing first generation stories, promoting resources, now sharing more about Complete Penn State and its new visibility as a class gift is what you can expect to find. So we hope to see you connecting with us through a variety of ways. And Rich, that is all from us, so we're gonna throw it back to you.
Terrific. Thank you, Denise. Thank you, Chelsea. Thanks again to Sophia and Nick. So this is the part of the program where we field whatever questions our guests may have. I'll remind you again, you can type your question into the chat section, or you can use the reactions to raise your hand, and I'll do my best to call on you. I will tell you that if we run out of time before the end of the program and we still have some unanswered questions, a member of my staff will follow up with you, and we will make sure that every question gets answered. So I don't see any chats or raised hands yet, so that means I get the honors of asking the first question. And Denise, this is for you. So you referenced in your remarks that you were coming on right at the cusp of the start of the pandemic, and now here we are a couple of years after bringing students back into the classroom and onto our campuses. How have you seen, or have you seen the needs change for our students as a result of that really pivotal moment?
Yes, we're absolutely still seeing residual effects of that. And we, I think for me, it's been very interesting these past few years. We've obviously had the higher education emergency federal funding that it came from the government that was able to supplement some of that need from our students that are of the lowest income per the FAFSA information. But we were able to supplement with Complete Penn State all along for those who are eligible. And I think now this year, not having that additional funding, we're still getting a high volume, as Chelsea had mentioned, of applications and referrals. This being our third year, that we will likely be somewhere in between that 1,500 and 2,000 applications and referrals from across the university of students that are identifying themselves as having a need and needing that extra support. So I think we're still feeling that. I will also say that we have a growing number of international students that have also sought us out for support. We are very proud of the fact that Complete Penn State is one of the very, very few scholarships that help support international students with their educational expenses at Penn State. And so students who are able to connect with us and find us and tell us a bit about their story and background. Our international students from a variety of countries are really still hurting economically. Their families are hurting. They're here, they are Penn Staters, they are part of the community, and they want to finish that Penn State degree and continue to be a part of our thriving alumni network. So it's really, I think, a point that we're very proud of, is being able to really help that community as well.
Right,
Denise, if I can just, I'm sorry, Rich, if I can just add to, we failed to mention this, but our scholarship can also be applied. So it can go towards outstanding tuition balances, but it can also be applied to related expenses such as rent support, food, transportation, textbooks. And we're seeing a very large number of students requesting that related expense support. I personally have worked with some students this year who are saying, you know, I've gone 5 to 6 days without eating just so I can pay my tuition. So this is truly for some of these students like life-changing support that is not just helping them be successful students, but it's helping them persist just as human beings. So that's an important part that we neglected to mention, but I wanted to make sure that we were able to clarify that.
Yes, thank you so much, Chelsea. And I'll even add as well that, and Chelsea mentioned our holistic approach to this, but as a Student Success Center, we are not a financial aid office, although we do look at the full picture of their circumstance, but we are making very intentional referrals to other resource supports across the institution. So Chelsea had mentioned that example, you know, in that particular example, we are working with our Student Care and Advocacy Office to also supplement with emergency funding. If a student comes to us and says, I'm really worried, I just put my full tuition on my credit card because I had no other way to pay, we are educating them and connecting them with the Financial Literacy Center with Sokolov Miller to help get them connected with key resources to help them navigate that as they move forward. And so that is something very nuanced in the way we approach this. It is so much more than just the scholarship. And in fact, you know, with such a small team, my vision for this when I took it over was really to be able to create these success plans for students that need them most. Some students just need the scholarship, and that is true. But other students have other more deeper challenges that they're facing where they need coordinated effort and they need somebody to check back in with them. And so whether it's connecting with the student's academic advisor or connecting with the other support office or student disability resources to make sure they're getting the access to the resources that they need, having that extra person and infrastructure is critical in many of these situations.
Thanks, Denise. So Catherine Cohen has asked a question, which I think is a fairly straightforward answer, but I'm still going to ask it, make sure she gets it. Are Commonwealth campus students eligible for a complete Penn State scholarship?
Absolutely, yes. It makes up about 40–45% of the applications and referrals that we are receiving. And we work with all of our campuses, regardless if they have complete Penn State scholarship dollars in their financial aid resources within their budget or not, because we will connect them to central resources if they do not have funding. So yes.
I should mention, just to round out that response, the Complete Penn State program was one of the signature programs of the Open Doors imperative in the comprehensive campaign that we just completed last June. And as we worked with donors from across the Commonwealth, we found that some donors wanted to direct their Open Doors support to the specific campus that they had attended. And other donors were very comfortable having those be centralized resources that Denise and her team could allocate where they identified the needs. So there's some local support and also some overarching higher level support that is available for students as a result of the campaign. So for those of you who established Open Door scholarships, thank you. So I want to pivot for just a second. And Nick, you were very brave in sharing the story of your mom's experience and how that has impacted you, and really actually quite gratifying that a program that we worked on in the campaign has been helpful to you. I'm curious though, did you ever imagine as president of the Student Philanthropy Network and standing up this year's class gift that you would be one of the beneficiaries of the work that you were doing? Did that ever cross your mind, and how does that make you feel?
Honestly, going into this year, I did not think I would ever be a beneficiary. You know, this was something that wasn't necessarily on my radar. You know, my mother having to pay for treatments and money being really tight. And yeah, it was something that kind of just like came out of nowhere, kind of out of left field. But thankfully, through working with the class gift and a lot of the work we've done, I knew Complete Penn State was an option for aid. And thankfully, I was able to apply. I was fortunate enough to receive a scholarship. And, you know, I'm still here, which is awesome. And I'm super happy about. But yeah, I had no intention of like helping myself through a lot of the work that we've done, but I'm really grateful that it has helped me and helped me complete my time here at Penn State. But a lot of the work we do through SPN and, you know, through my work, you know, working with you, Rich, and even here on campus has been to help students from marginalized communities and from communities or individuals who come from like lower socioeconomic backgrounds, because they tend to have a tougher time here at Penn State and aren't really able to have the same Penn State experience as a lot of other students. And that's something I've been working on to help students who come from these marginalized communities or from lower socioeconomic backgrounds have this true Penn State experience, because it's something I've been able to, you know, love. And I love this university and I've had an amazing time here. And I want every student to really have that type of experience here on campus.
Thanks, Nick. I appreciate that. Just two editorial comments. One is I think everyone who's associated with these programs agree, particularly Complete Penn State agrees that the very worst thing we could do is have a student be this close to finishing, leave Penn State without their diploma and potentially carrying student debt and other challenges. Very worst thing we could do. So this is a really powerful program. And Nick, I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't link a couple of things together. When you graduate, you're going to go be an investment banker in New York City, which means you will have an opportunity to pay it forward and do one of these scholarships yourself someday.
Yeah, that's definitely the intention. So maybe in a few years once I'm making a little more.
No pressure. I haven't had any other questions in chat or raised hands that I can see, so I'll save. I'll send this question from my list to Sophia. Sophia, you've had an opportunity now to work with students who contribute their support to the institution. Tell me why you feel that is so special.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's just so, you can see how like heartwarming it is when students care about their like fellow peers and other members of their student body, and how they're so excited at the opportunity to donate that genuinely makes a difference in a friend or someone they don't even know's lives. We get to have these conversations when we have these events in person, that, you know, a student realizes that this is a scholarship that they can apply for, and it's an opportunity that they didn't know before. So kind of seeing the full circle of getting the students who are able to donate interested, or even getting them interested and telling their parents who have more opportunities to donate or the funds to donate. So it's been a very full circle experience in this role, and just having those conversations. And it's just so heartwarming to see students care and make a difference for their classmates and their peers and everyone at the university.
Great, thanks. So I think we have time for maybe, I want to be sensitive to all of your time. I think we have time for maybe one more question, and it's from our friend Bruce in Florida, and it's a meaty question that I'm going to have to ask Denise and Chelsea to help me with. So the question is, how many students, number or percentage, do you feel need financial support in their final 2 semesters to complete their degree? How many students apply that you can't help due to lack of funds? And how many students drop out in their final 2 semesters due to lack of resources?
I'm going to have to report back on a few of these, but I will say that we did quite a bit of analysis, definitely going into the work that I was able to contribute to with awarding the HER funding, the COVID relief emergency funding. And the folks over in our enrollment management division did quite a bit of reporting. We have started to do more analysis as an office, but also being the main supports for students, it's a little bit hard to also find the time to get so in the weeds. So we are working on it. But I think as far as the dropout or stop out students, as we talk about, I don't have an updated percentage, before I took over this role, the group that was charged with starting to find students to connect the Complete Penn State funding with did a little bit more of an analysis on the stop out situation. Now, I know that through our program in Chelsea, I don't know if anything is coming to mind for you from the last cohort analysis that you did. We had quite a few students who we even attempted to support or supported through last year that weren't able to kind of get that final bit of scholarship cleared in order to continue and finish in this year, or didn't fully complete their degree. So that is one of our priorities moving forward, is making sure that we're going back and even capturing those students that connected with Complete Penn State in some way through the application process to fully make sure that they get to that completion point. Right now, we have about, our last analysis was about 88% completion rate for those awarded. Sometimes it's also just not enough. And so having that extra support and making sure, even if it wasn't just the financial piece, maybe they were retaking a class for the third time and they really needed that course to round out their curriculum requirements, and they needed someone to make sure they were connected with learning support from day one of that last semester. That is not something we've been able to do to that granular level yet. So Bruce, I can certainly circle back and get you more specifics on that question. We'll capture it, and I can definitely report back with some numbers.
I will say on page 7 of our Complete Penn State report, I did share the link for that in the chat. And that has just very briefly some completion outcomes for those students who we awarded. Now, this is not holistic, because you'll see in our numbers of the number of students who applied or were referred to our program, we're not able to support all of them. Some of them are simply not eligible. They haven't filed a FAFSA. They've declined aid that they were offered, et cetera, et cetera. They may not have the GPA requirements. But of those students who we awarded, nearly 5% still stopped out or withdrew. So again, that's where Denise is speaking about, these are micro scholarships. And for some students, the need is just beyond that, or it may even be not financially related. One of your questions about how many students apply that we can't help due to lack of funds. So as we've talked about, the money that was fundraised for Complete Penn State as an open doors program, a lot of it was allocated by college or campus. Not all campuses or colleges have specific Complete Penn State money. For some of those students who do come through our pipeline, we're able to support some of them through some centrally allocated funds. I can just speak for, I work with our University Park awarding colleagues. We have several colleges that at this stage in the year are almost exhausted in their funds. And we know that our May graduation cohort is our largest. So, that's a very real struggle that we're having when it comes to resourcing. It's also a double-edged sword of promoting this program. We want as many students to know about it as possible, but because the pool of money varies by college and campus, we had one college that promoted Complete Penn State at the very beginning of the school year. And I think by October or November, they had exhausted all of their funds for the entire year. And so pretty much every student who's coming through our applications and referrals from that college, we're unable to support. So that is a real struggle that we're having. But we're doing our best to still get students connected to other resources where we can.
And really spending the time to be creative. If they are coming from a college or campus that has exhausted funds, or maybe they don't qualify for that central funding, we're looking with them to try and find some other resources. So it definitely takes time, and to just revisit the topic of the re-enrollment arm of Complete Penn State. We have not been able to market that really either, because the re-enrollment process is very time consuming. I'm working with a student right now who left Penn State almost 30 years ago. He was one course shy. He's now seeing his children graduate. He has a successful business, but actually never finished his degree. And he still feels this connection to Penn State. He left for personal hardship reasons. He wants to complete through Penn State, but we are spending now almost a year trying to find a pathway for him to do that. So there's definitely barriers that we need to try and overcome to find the pathways for students to get them to that finish line. It's not always easy. Some students cannot simply relocate back to State College if that's the only place that offers their particular degree program. So we spend a lot of time with these students, listening to them, trying to figure out creative ways for them to get to that completion finish line.
Great. Well, let me take this opportunity to thank Denise and Chelsea, Nick and Sophia once again for being our panelists this afternoon. This has been a terrific conversation, but unfortunately we have run out of time. We're going to share now some contact information if any of you would like to follow up with contact information for Sophia related to the class gift initiative. And we'll also share some contact information for Sue Harris, our Director of Development for Parent Philanthropy and University Programs. And you can reach out to either of them if you want to learn how you can help to support the important work that we learned about today. This concludes our first Noontime Knowledge Series event of the year. I'm going to take a moment of executive privilege to say hello to my friend Len, friend and classmate Len, who dialed in from Puerto Vallarta, Mexico for this program. Thanks all of you for being with us this afternoon, and we hope to see you on February 22nd for a conversation about Plant Village. Have a great rest of your day and stay warm this weekend.